Welcome to Lock It Down Sports. I'm your host, Locke Hoover. You can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on Twitter. You can also check us out at E5280 Sports. That's E5280 Sports. And today on the Lock It Down Sports podcast, you have the ACC is starting a trend. The NFL expands and trade deadline rumors. Those are always fun, interesting ones to kind of see what happened post trade deadline of, the rumor mill got fired up and, kind of got talked about. And one of them was the Braves were interested in Byron Buxton. But there seems to be a lot of hurdles with this. The first one is you got a full no trade clause this year. We'll have 10 and 5 rights in 2027 and has a limited no trade clause, and one of those includes the Braves, which is interesting considering he's from Georgia. Granted, it's South Georgia, but no trade clause is one of the teams included for the Braves. Now, would he be willing to waiver his no trade clause this offseason after the Twins sold pretty much everybody? I mean, from the Correa to their two bullpen guys. They still got Joe Ryan, their all-star starting pitcher. But besides that, they're in a complete rebuild mode, and they're trying to sell the team and are in debt. So, I mean, maybe likes Minnesota. They haven't really won a whole lot there, especially when he's been there. But that's kind of some of the hurdles that are sitting there with the Twins, with the Twins, with Buxton, with this no trade clause. Now, maybe they re-engage in the conversation in the offseason, because you hear very much so sometimes, trading deadline that's like a start of the conversation for the offseason potential trades. Now, how does this fit from the Braves perspective? Would be kind of interesting. As he's only played center field and DH his whole career. So someone would have to move to a corner spot. And you would think that would be Byron Buxton and keep Harris in center. If they do bring him in, I could see him playing, like I said, a corner, whether it's left or right, and DH. And then you would likely do the exact same thing with Ronald Acuna. If it's you rotate Buxton and Acuna, both right and DH, to keep them fresh and keep them on the field, I don't see why not. I mean, you also got to factor in, would he be willing to move off center? Because I don't think they're moving Michael Harris off center. Michael Harris fits better as a center fielder type than Byron Buxton, based on just keeping him on the field and healthy. Yes, and that communication Michael Harris is Michael Harris has been banged up too. But there's more power potential with Byron Buxton, so you want to move him to a corner. I mentioned that with Buxton. Health is an issue for sure. Ronald too, obviously we've seen what he can do on the field when he's on the field, but he's just had obviously ACL injuries, calf injuries, that sort of thing. That's never a good thing. So Buxton has only had over 500 at-bats and 140 games once in his career, which that still isn't even a full season. And that was back at his age 26 season. Age 23 season, back in 2017. After that, the highest games he's played in at bats, he's had 388 at bats in 102 games. I mean, to me, that's an issue as he struggles to stay healthy. Super talented, absolutely. A lot of upside when playing and healthy. Those are the key words there once again. Healthy and playing. If you do bring in Buxton, how does roster construction look? I mean, you'd have 5 guys for the DH spot if you trade for Byron Buxton, saying you don't trade a major leaguer. And that would look like Murphy, Baldwin, Acuna, Profar, and Buxton. I think you'd very much see the catching position kind of being swapped back and forth like they currently are doing. And then you've got Buxton, Acuna, and Profar to DH, play left, right, and DH. Obviously, bringing Buxton in, I think, pretty much says goodbye to Marcell Ozuna, who obviously he's played well of late, recently, and we know he's been hurt this year. So if you do this sort of alignment and setup, he's Marcel's no longer on the team, but it gets you a little bit more athletic with Acuna playing and DHing in right, with Buxton playing and DHing in right, with Profar playing, DHing in left. Your 2 catchers swapping and DHing. But that's still kind of a tricky thing because obviously Acuna's every day, whether it's in right or whether it's in DH. So that's where the swapping gets a little tricky. You could almost kind of go back and forth, Profar and Buxton maybe in left. But then you got the catchers in Murphy and Drake Baldwin. So there would be a lot of moving parts, shall I say, in all of this. In this situation. And I know obviously they just invested in Jerson Profar, but to me, I think he's still a wait and see. How much do we believe in him? Is he real or was it the PEDs? He's playing okay this year. I mean, nothing to set the world on fire. I think, and that's kind of what the Braves are really looking for from Jerson Profar, just league average. I mean, you hit 18 to 20 homers, solid average, solid on base. You drive and some runs, you score some runs. That's really that's all you're asking for Jerson Profar. That's all. And be an average defender. Right now, he's a little bit below average, so that's not ideal. But just, average production, that's really it. To me, the big key in this, if Buxton were to come over, is keeping Ronald Acuna healthy on the field. Whether it's DH, some, right field, some, because we know how electric he is. Obviously, we know he's got that cane out there in right field, so you want him to play defense in right field, but you also want him to stay healthy, swing the bat, stay in the field. Now, with both Buxton and Acuna, I think on that end, you've got to have a good, in that end, 4th, really 5th outfielder, but could potentially play more like a 4th. And what we've seen from Eli White this year, you'd be happy with that. You'd be happy with Eli White's production for what he is in that 7-8 spot in the lineup. Can run, can play all 3 outfield positions. He would fit in. He would fit in good if he has this year's production next year. So it's like on that end, good for Eli White. He's kind of made himself a home as he's kind of bounced around between AAA and the minors the last few years with the Braves, with the Rangers, to potentially be that fourth, fifth outfielder the way he's played this year. And he would be very much needed in a potential injury case. Now, it'd be one of those, if Buxton and Acuna are healthy, Eli White has maybe 100 at bats on the year. Maybe. And you're fine with that. But if that's not the case, then he's going to have to play a little bit more. And you can live with that if he produces like he has this year. So who knows if it'll transpire over the offseason, what they do, obviously the direction that they go with the DH, the roster construction, the outfield sort of thing. But it's always a fun little rumor to see what kind of percolated and could lead to an offseason trade or move with certain teams. Now, we've seen the recent moves, and that is the NFL's movement. As there's been some, I guess, swaps you could kind of say. And what I mean by that is ESPN now owns NFL Network and all its properties, which is unfortunate. I think it's a big problem, and I think it might ruin NFL Red Zone. Why? Because it's ESPN, and it's what they do. I feel like they haven't really enhanced much that they've acquired. They've more run into the ground. I mean, with their changes, what happened to the good 30 for 30s? Where did those go? I mean, what happened to their sports documentaries that were good? Now they're all politically charged, social justice issues. That's feel like what a lot of these are now, as opposed to just straight good documentary sports type stories. Like what's happened with those? I feel like they are going to push other people onto the show. Scott Hansen said he's going to be back. Which is good. And they might try to change a format that has been incredibly successful for NFL Red Zone. So that makes me a little bit nervous about how they can potentially change and ruin things because it's ESPN. Now, the other thing, which is really the bigger part in all of this, is the NFL now owns 10% of ESPN. That's right. The National Football League owns 10% of ESPN, which I think, once again, is a bad thing. Because what happens when the next NFL player shoots someone, sexual abuse, domestic violence, DUI, whatever, rape, whatever the next thing that happens, because it is going to happen, it will happen. You proclaim to be the worldwide leader in sports, and you're probably not going to even mention what happened to so-and-so player. You're not going to mention the Deshaun Watson thing, the Justin Tuck thing, the sexual abuse with the massage therapist, whatever's actually come out without, kind of, who knows. But would you report it? Would you even mention it? Because you're hurting your owners. The owner, the NFL, sheds bad light on it. I mean, you are the proclaimed worldwide leader in sports. Will you not mention it because it affects their owners? The owner, what are you doing? And then also, when the next TV contract comes up, how does that work because you're always going to have the NFL. They're not going to ditch you to take a better deal. They might make you pay more, which is fine because then they get that 10. They own 10% of you, so that they're getting some of that money to come back to them. I mean, that hurts other networks. And it will continue to drive up TV deals, and it could potentially block out competition. And this is the exact same thing with NFL ownership when it comes to CBS. As the NFL owns part of Paramount, which is, of course, owns CBS. Once again, that's a thing of they're not going to say anything negative about reports, what's happening, what's going on in the NFL. Why? Because they're in ownership. They own a piece of essentially CBS, the parent company that owns CBS, Paramount. Once again, with the contract, TV rights and battles and all that, they're not going anywhere. I mean, I get it. Everyone wants to be in business with the NFL. It's good business to be in business with the NFL as far as ratings and networks and all that, because you go look at the top 100 rated shows are airing on TV. The NFL has probably 95 of the top 100, with the others being a presidential election, maybe a college football playoff or college football championship game, or some big world event. Maybe it's, the season finale of like a Breaking Bad. I know the show Breaking Bad's, over and done with. Or like a Yellowstone, season's over and done with. But outside of shows like that and NFL, that's what I said. I'd say like 90 of the top 100 aired TV shows, airings, the National Football League. And it doesn't matter who's on Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. It could be Falcons, Saints, and 2 500 teams, and it's going to draw because it's the NFL, and that's what they do. It's the crave for the NFL and what it brings. So it's a lot. Great for the NFL. They get to control the narrative. They get to control everything. Not so good for everybody else of seeing what news and information they're putting out and where and what we're getting, if we're actually going to get the full reports, which once again, I don't think we are. Now, something that is good in college football and college football is coming. That's the ACC. And ACC's replay this year is going to be something I think they're going to set a trend, and you're going to see this in other leagues. As during replay, we will now get to hear what's going on in the command center. So when you see the ref looking in the camera, talking with the other person from the screen in the command center, you're going to get to hear the back and forth conversation with the refs when they're looking to review a play on the field. And talking through the call is my understanding of this. I think that's great for the conference and for ESPN, for how transparent it's going to be with the call and why the decision was made, other than it was inconclusive and the call stands, or it was incomplete, or it was a catch, or whatever, We might get to hear the back and forth conversation of the who, what, when, where, why, how thing, which is great for all of college football, the college football fans, of having a better understanding of the call and be like, okay, other than that was inconclusive. How was that inconclusive? I saw the 2 feet drag. I saw the elbow in before he went out of bed, before the elbow was down, helped make the completion of the catch, I saw the toes drag, both toes or one toe. So it'll give you a better understanding of like, I hope it does anyway, of okay, that sucks. But I hear their logic. And I think that's a good thing overall for college football. And I think if this goes well, you'll start seeing in other conferences. And this year, anyway, it might make me more inclined to watch an ACC football game. Now, it's not going to be all ACC football games. It's going to be their primetime games. So that's important. And I just having the intercommunication with the ref and the command center, all the more importance of transparency and the truth of understanding why this call was made. And, bravo for them doing something good for college football recently, because we've had a lot of negative for college football. So something positive, bravo, bravo, bravo. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on X. You also listen to me next week on E5280 Sports. I'm Locke Hoover. You've been listening to Lock It Down Sports. Talk to you next week.